All right, let's jump right in. Think about, well, everything. Everything that exists. It kind of feels like it all falls into two big categories, right? You've got the stuff you can touch, stuff you can kick, and then there's all the other stuff. So, how do we even begin to make sense of that everything else? That's what we're going to dig into today.
Okay, so look at this. On one side, you have the concrete stuff. A rock, a tree, a person. Simple. You can point at it, you can touch it. But then you've got the other side, the abstract stuff. Things like the number 7, or the concept of justice, or even the game of chess. I mean, you can't exactly trip over the number 7 on your way to the kitchen, but you totally get what it means. It feels super intuitive, doesn't it? Like, of course, these are two different kinds of things.
And yet, and this is the crazy part, what seems so simple is actually one of the biggest, oldest puzzles in philosophy. Pretty much everyone agrees this distinction is super important, but almost no one agrees on where to actually draw the line between the two. So, that's our mission today. We're going on a quest to find that dividing line.
So where did this whole idea even come from? It didn't just pop into existence. To really get a handle on this puzzle, we've got to look at its history. And it's a fascinating journey, trust me. It takes us from a simple little observation about grammar all the way to a huge question about what's even real.
Believe it or not, it all started with grammar. Way back when, ancient grammarians noticed you could say white, describing a thing, or you could talk about whiteness, the quality itself. For ages, that was it, just a thing about words. Then, fast forward to the 17th century and you get John Locke. He kind of moves the whole thing into our heads, talking about abstract ideas. But the real game changer? That was Gottlob Frege in the late 19th century. He looked at math and basically said, hold on, to make sense of this, we need to think about abstract objects, and these things are real.
And this is where Frege just blew everyone's minds. He said, okay, numbers aren't physical objects, obviously, but they can't just be ideas in our heads either, right? Because if they were, my idea of 2 could be different from your idea of 2, and math would fall apart. So he came up with this concept of a third realm, a place for things that are totally real, totally objective, but they're not physical, and they're not just in our minds. And boom, that's pretty much the birth of the abstract object as we think about it today.
Okay, so this gives us our biggest clue in this whole detective story. If these abstract things aren't in the physical world, and they're not just ideas, well, maybe the best way to pin them down is to talk about what they're not. It's a strategy called the way of negation, and it's the most popular way people have tried to finally draw that line.
So let's get down to brass tacks. How do we actually separate a rock from the number 7? What's the key difference? What does the rock have that the number 7 just doesn't? Well, the standard answer gives us two big things to look for.
All right, here are the two big rules. First, abstract things are non-spatial. You can't ask, hey, where is the number 7? It's a meaningless question. It's not hiding in your closet. It's not on Jupiter. It just doesn't exist in space, period. And second, they're causally inert, which is a fancy way of saying they can't do anything. A rock can fall and break something, but the concept of justice itself can't physically push a scale. It has zero power to cause change in the world.
So there you have it, our shiny new definition. An object is abstract if it's outside of space and it has no causal power. Seems pretty neat, right? Tidy? Puts everything in its box? Quest over? Or is it? Yeah, you knew it wasn't going to be that easy, because as soon as we get a definition we like, reality comes along and throws a bunch of curveballs. So let's put our rule to the test. Let's see how it holds up against some really tricky cases that, well, they kind of mess everything up.
Okay, first up, the game of chess. On the surface, it seems like a perfect example of an abstract object, right? It's just a set of rules, not a physical chessboard or the pieces. But let's run it through our two-part test and see what happens.
And we immediately hit a snag. First question, is chess non-spatial? Well, not really. It was invented at a specific time and place, around the 7th century in India. It has a history that exists in time. Okay, what about the second rule? Is it causally inert? Absolutely not. The rules of chess are the very thing that causes players to think certain ways and move the pieces. So, oops, our nice clean line just got really, really blurry.
All right, let's try another one. This is a classic philosopher's puzzle, the impure set. So a set is a totally abstract math concept. But what happens if you make a set that only contains one thing? And that one thing is a concrete person, like the set that contains only Socrates.
And here we go again, another paradox.
Is the set containing Socrates non-spatial? Some would argue that the set exists wherever Socrates existed, in ancient Athens, so it has a location. And is it causally inert? Well, the set itself doesn't do anything, but its entire existence is tied to a real person who absolutely caused a lot of things to happen. It's like an abstract container holding a concrete thing, and it gets kind of contaminated by that concreteness.
And the list of these problem cases just goes on and on. What about a fictional character, like Bilbo Baggins? He was created by Tolkien at a specific time. What about a scientific theory, like general relativity? It absolutely causes scientists to build experiments. Or think about the English language itself. It's not a physical thing you can hold, but it definitely changes over time, and it for sure causes us to communicate and act in certain ways. None of these fit cleanly into our simple little definition.
So, okay, if our best definition completely falls apart the second we poke at it, what was the point of all this? Why even bother? Well, this is where it gets really cool. The fact that we can't find a simple answer, that is the answer.
You don't have to take my word for it. The Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, one of our main sources here, puts it bluntly. There might not be one single correct way to explain this distinction. The world, it turns out, is just way messier than our neat little categories.
So, here's the big takeaway. The real prize isn't finding some perfect, magical definition. The prize is what we learn from the struggle to find one. It shows us that reality isn't just a simple collection of physical things on one side and pure ideas on the other. It's this incredibly complex tapestry, woven with all that messy stuff in the middle. Our languages, our stories, our institutions, things that just refuse to stay in one box.
And that leaves us with one last thing to chew on. We started this whole journey with what felt like the most basic distinction in the world. Stuff you can touch versus stuff you can only think about. If a line that simple turns out to be this blurry and complicated, what else do we take for granted about our reality that isn't anywhere near as clear-cut as it seems? Thanks for tuning in.